I had an experience a number of years ago that changed my life radically. So I don't want to just sit back and tell people what I believe the rest of my life. I want to get out there and walk with Christ, and I want to do the works of Christ, and I want to see miracles, and I want to see lives change, and I want to see our nation renewed, and I want a faith that's passionate and dynamic. I don't want to just sit and talk. And a number of years ago, I had the opportunity to get out of the boat. I was in Dayton, Ohio, and I'll conclude with this. I was in Dayton, Ohio. And there was a story that everybody heard about in Dayton, and it was the story of a young girl by the name of Tabitha. And Tabitha had murdered, she was 13 years old, and she had murdered another 13-year-old girl. And what had happened was this other girl kept teasing Tabitha and hitting her on the head with these bricks. And Tabitha was tired of it. And so she said to her brother, "What can I do to stop her?" And her brother said, "Next time she does it, go and get one of Mom's steak knives. And then go after her, but don't hit her. Just act like you're going to and hit the shoulder and just scare her a little bit." Well, it happened. Tabitha was teased, and Tabitha ran inside and she got a steak knife. And she came back out and she said, "Don't do that anymore." And she went like this, came at the girl, but the girl moved the wrong way, and it hit her jugular. And blood began to shoot out of the neck. And she started screaming and ran and fell over dead. And there was little 13-year-old Tabitha shaking, arrested. On the news, we all heard about Tabitha. We all heard about Tabitha. Every one of us. 13-year-old Tabitha arrested today, 13-year-old Tabitha arraigned, 13-year-old Tabitha this, 13-year-old Tabitha sentenced today. We all heard about it. And I was driving down the road on one day, teaching the Bible, doing all kinds of things, with the church. And I was listening to the radio when I was on my way to do something really important. And this is so important if we're going to change the world. We've got to distinguish between things and people. Focus our lives on eternal things rather than temporal things. And I was on my way to do something really important that day. I was on my way to the Dairy Queen. I wanted a double dip cone. I deserved it. The man of God needs a dip cone. So I was on my way to the Dairy Queen, and this story came on that Tabitha was sentenced, going to be taken away to prison. And I don't know why, but that day I pulled over on the side of the road, and I got to thinking about it. And I thought, Lord, what would you do about Tabitha? What would you do if you were here today? I started thinking. And as I sat there thinking, what would you do about Tabitha, Lord? I heard a voice in my heart. Not my ears, but in my heart, I heard this. Jeff, if I were there, I would go down to the prison and wrap my arms around her and whisper, "I love you, Tabitha, and I haven't forgot you." And I sat there thinking about that. And I was a pastor at the time, young pastor in Dayton, Ohio, before I came into the Catholic Church. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, he'd do that. That's good. Oh, yeah. That'll preach. I'll have to make a note of that. That's good, isn't it? I mean, it sounds like something he would do, right? Jesus would walk into the jail. Yeah, that's good. Jesus, go visit Tabitha. I mentioned that in my sermon this Sunday. Yeah, now I can get my Dairy Queen. Well, I wanted to go get my Dairy Queen, but I couldn't. Kept thinking about Tabitha. And I made a resolve. Lord, I'm going to get out of the boat. You got to get out of the boat. And I said, Lord, if that's something that you would do, and I'm your body, these are your hands, your mouth, your feet, your hug. If that's what you would do, then that's what I will do. And I turned the car around, and I went to downtown Dayton. Never been to the prison before there in my life. It took me 10 minutes to get downtown, and I found the prison. And I walked up those long steps, and I got up to the top, and I walked inside, and there's like a bulletproof wall there. Someone bent over writing, and I leaned over there with this little microphone thing, and I said, excuse me. I said, my name is Jeff Cavins, and I'm here to see Tabitha so-and-so. And he didn't even look up. He just said, I'm sorry, but no one's allowed to. He stopped. What was your name? I said, my name is Jeff Cavins, here to see Tabitha. He said, did last week you lead a Curcio weekend for women? I said, yes, I did. My wife went to that, and her whole life has changed. She's just, Jesus, 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 talking about God, talking about God, talking about God the whole time. He said, here, sign right here, put out a thing. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is working. This isn't supposed to work. I signed. He says, come with me. I'm thinking, whoa, I'm supposed to get in a Dairy Queen. I'm going to jail. So I walked, he opened the doors, and I walked into the prison, and he brought me down this long hall, and he brought me down, doors opening, and he said, sit right here. I'll be right back. Doors shut. Whoa. I said, about 5 minutes later, the door's open. The door's open. And in comes the guard with this teeny tiny little girl. And she walked in and she was shaking. She had a piece of paper in her hand. And she was shaking. And she thought I was there to take her away to the women's prison. And she was shaking, and the guard took a step back, and I looked at her and I said, Tabitha, my name is Jeff. I'm a Christian. I was driving down the road, and I heard about the story, and I asked the Lord what he would do if he were here. And I walked up to Tabitha, and I put my arms out, and I took this little shaking girl, teeny little girl, and I put my arms around her, and I brought her to myself, and I said, Tabitha, I said, I love you, and I haven't forgotten you. From Jesus. And she just started sobbing. She started crying. She started crying, and she backed up, and she handed me the note, and she put her hands in her face and started crying. And I looked at the note, and it was a Christian tract that somebody put on the prison floor the night before. And she started crying. She said, I saw this last night, and I prayed it. And I looked at it, and it said, I love you, and you are not alone, Jesus. And my life changed that day. And I looked at Tabitha, and I said, Tabitha, has anyone been here to visit you? And she said, no one. And I thought, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're the body of Christ. We all knew she was there. We all talked about it. And Jesus said that if we will go and visit those in prison, we're visiting him. If we'll feed the poor, we're feeding him. Clothe the naked. Everything that we do. My life changed that day because God gave me an opportunity, and I didn't feel like I could really do anything. In fact, what I did took a PhD. I turned my car around. I gave up a dip cone. I climbed 15 stairs, and I mentioned my name. Man, am I talented.